Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the Budget to the Future webinar. So we're going to talk through the past, the present, the future of planning and forecasting with IBM Planning Analytics. I'm John Martin. I'm VP of Analytics at CarpeDatum. We're a converged company, and we love to help companies improve operations by leveraging data and technology. I am honored to be joined by two amazing guests today. I have Dave Albert, the Analytics Global Business Lead at IBM, and Anthony Wiginton, Senior Director of Finance at Sweetgreen. Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, John. Great.
Thanks for having us, John.
My pleasure. It was fun. So, Anthony, tell us a little bit, for the folks that don't know about Sweetgreen, maybe you can share a little bit about Sweetgreen, your journey with budgeting, planning, forecasting.
Absolutely. Thanks again, John, for having me. Yeah, so my name is Anthony Wiginton. I'm the Senior Director of Finance here at Sweetgreen. Been here for just a little under 3 years. And so we are a fast casual salad restaurant chain, principally based out of DC, New York, and LA, and we've expanded a lot. I mean, when I first started about 3 years ago, we were at about 85 restaurants. We're at 125 today. So even in the last 3 years, 50% increase in our store restaurant growth. And we've a lot of growth. When I first got here, I think we were primarily operating off of 2 channels, that being, line and pickup. And since then, we're operating under 5 channels. We have line and pickup. We have our Outpost channel where we are delivering salads directly to businesses, which is unique to Sweetgreen. Not really no one else out there is doing that, as well as expansion on our marketplace. We moved away from our exclusivity deal with Uber Eats, now working with all marketplaces. And then we have our native app where we're doing delivery through that as well. So a lot of growth. We've expanded to a lot of new markets really since I've been here, when we're now in Austin and Houston, Dallas, Miami, Denver, and just on Tuesday opened up our first restaurant in Atlanta, which was very exciting. So we're kind of entering the new chapter of getting into more suburban markets. Like I said, we're mostly New York, DC, Boston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco and Chicago, but really expanding into some of the suburban, less dense urban markets. And I think that's going to be a lot of the future for Sweetgreen. When I first got here, it was really 2 people, manager level within FP&A. We've grown our team out to 7 now, with myself kind of leading the FP&A department, and a really strong team that focuses both on the corporate finance side of the business as well as our operations finance side. So we've kind of built that out, and we're really Sweetgreen was heavily impacted by COVID. I want to say, if you go back to January and February, I mean, the company was firing on all cylinders, and it felt like overnight, middle of March, things just really went sideways. And it's been a slow recovery. Given the heavy, dense urban structure of our portfolio, definitely we were not immune to COVID. But really, I think since kind of April, May, we've been climbing up very quickly. And I think, excited for it. We have a lot of growth ahead of us here.
That's exciting. I have been to Sweetgreen. I'm a big fan, Anthony, and actually I was out in New York visiting our New York office last week and had the opportunity to hit up the New York location. And if those attending, have to give props for Sweetgreen, Anthony. So if you haven't been to Sweetgreen, definitely check it out. Great food, high quality, very healthy. So as I recall, Anthony, when you were going through your selection process, the timing of it all worked out right before COVID started. How can you talk a little bit about how you used it during COVID? Did it help you? Did it add any value?
Yeah, when I first got here, I mean, that was one of my first observations, is that I saw the growth, I saw the expansion onto the different channels, new markets, heavy store growth, and I looked at the EPM that Sweetgreen was currently on and knew that it was not going to be the right tool for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so, but I gave it a shot, they had just implemented it right before I came on board. So I felt like I needed to really give it an effort. The implementation was not incredibly successful, didn't actually get fully stood up. But there's several of us really tried to get it fully up and running, and just couldn't get it there. So I want to say, after maybe 12 to 18 months of kind of struggling with the current EPM that we had, we knew that we needed to implement something else. We needed something that was much easier to use, much easier to train on. We knew that we were going to continue to grow our department. And I mean, that was, as the head of finance, one of my major concerns was, this is difficult for me to work through. I can't imagine for a new analyst coming onto the team to learn a new business and have to tackle what we were on. And so I want to say, yeah, I think in the fall of 2019, going all the way back, is when we first started looking, and we were shopping several options. And I ultimately, decided that IBM Planning Analytics was by the best option for Sweetgreen.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Thank you. Well, let's pivot over to you, David. Sitting there, we got to take advantage of your brain and all your experience there. So when I hear Anthony's story, and I've heard more than you've shared thus far, Anthony, so I know a little bit more about the story, but kind of it's in conflict with some of the negative things I hear from IBM competitors or from people who are evaluating EPM or planning and management, enterprise planning management solutions. So my hope today is that we can help customers, prospects, maybe get some clarity about some of the FUD and things that they hear. So are you okay if I put you on the spot here and hit you with a couple of these zingers? Oh, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, sure. Fire away, John.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm doing this out of love, Dave. So my heart's in the right place.
It all works.
So the most common thing I hear from competitors when I'm talking with prospects, and they've looked at a number of demos, and they say they hear planning analytics. It's really technical. It requires coding and IT resources. And that's not been our experience, but what is your take, or what's IBM's response to that?
So, I mean, you're right. We hear, we hear a lot about, the technical requirements and coding required, but that's generally, as you call it, FUD, uncertainty and doubt. But planning analytics is very much a user-friendly self-service tool. So the vast majority of users do come from the business. So basically they configure, operate the solution and resources from the business end, which means that's typically somebody from the office of finance or a line of business and not necessarily IT. So, as I've said, it's self-service for planning and budgeting application, but there's not really coding required. Obviously, the deeper you get into the tool, much like any proper application, the more complex you can get. But for the majority of users, no, it's more of a self-service tool. And we see that continuing, especially now that additional users are moving to the cloud, right? So it's a key part of our development process to make sure that with each release we take pride in making sure that we adopt smarts and AI that make it easier for planning analytics users to use the tool in a simpler, more efficient way. And as you so rightly said, we handle complex problems, which is a major competitive benefit for us. So regardless of the type of user, it's the user basically determines on how they use the tool. So for example, Excel is great for small organizations that have minimal reporting and budgeting plans, but when you get into handling large amounts of data, that's where we excel. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But having the ability to scale and even leverage more complex portions of technology and data, that's where we provide the greatest value. But it doesn't necessarily mean coding and complexity.
Yeah, that's a great points. And I think, it's kind of confusing. I don't blame customers and prospects for getting confused, because who doesn't want, ease of use, and who doesn't want to emphasize quick time to value? And if there's one thing, if you're watching this today, the biggest thing I would hope you would take away is to remember this, and that is, for most companies, the highest theoretical value of any EPM solution is going to be the most complex. So it's not the easy stuff. The easy stuff you can do in Excel or do in really any EPM solution probably out there. It is the most complex. And though it's tempting to be allured by the look of easy, simple to use, which I think planning analytics is definitely, on par or better than anything else out there today. But it's the underpinnings. It's really what's the engine. And I was trying to think of a back to the future budget for the future analogy. And the best thing I could come up with was kind of a car. If your budgeting solution is I'm picking a car, you would never go pick a car just watching it drive by. And you also would pick a car if we assume the destination that I'm trying to get to is my budgeting needs. I have to know it can get me to that final destination. It's not the fact that it can drive by me and look nice. It's really what is the engine underneath? Will it get me to that destination? And that's what we've seen, and that's why we as a company have aligned ourselves with IBM. So thanks for that feedback. So Anthony, a few questions for you on that vein. Can you talk about what technologies you evaluated, and I'd also love to hear from you. Is what Dave said, is that in sync, or do you have an army of IT people helping you run this thing?
No, 100% managed and operated within FP&A. I think the key was the great implementation that we had with Turner and Darren with your team, John, and it was a really smooth implementation process. I want to say we initially said it would be, John, 4 months or so. I think we came in a month under time and within budget. And so from there, we were off to the races. We didn't have to ping anyone from IT, get anyone on IT on a retainer to keep us up and running. So we have a sort of an admin within the FP&A department.
Yep.
That is helping us continue to maintain it, our hierarchies, but he had learned through the implementation process with Turner how to continue to update our calculations, our KPIs, add new stores. And we were very diligent in the process and made sure that once we were handed the keys, to your point, that we knew how to drive the car ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so you didn't have to go, and this is what I hear, that they'll say, oh, you're gonna have to hire people to do this. You didn't have to hire anyone. It was take someone in-house. Great.
Yeah.
And what other technologies did you evaluate when you selected?
Yeah, we did a lot of research. I would say the two next IBM planning analytics that made it to the final rounds, if you will, I believe were Alteryx as well as Anaplan. And we felt with both, that what did it with us with IBM Planning Analytics is just how far ahead the Excel add-in is. We're a very hybrid FP&A department, and really what we wanted was the best of both worlds between the web app as well as a really strong Excel add-in. And we did not feel, because that was kind of one of our pain points so what we were on prior to IBM Planning Analytics was Host Analytics, or what is now called Planful. And we had a lot of kind of PTSD from the Excel add-in function with Planful. And we did not want to make that mistake again. And we felt like even with Alteryx and
I think you mean adaptive.
What's it?
Adaptive planning.
And Anaplan?
Yeah.
We felt like with both those two that the focus was mostly on the web app, and the Excel add-in was an afterthought. And we needed the best of both worlds, and I think that's really why we went with IBM Planning.
That's great. That's good. Well, so this really goes in line with that, and this is another one for you, Dave, in terms of zingers I've heard, and that is that IBM isn't investing in the technology, and that planning analytics isn't a priority for IBM. What do you say about that?
So, it's funny you mentioned that, even ahead of time, John, and this is one of the more common and maybe one of my favorite comments to respond to from competitors, because it's clearly an attempt to put doubt into the minds of the prospect. So, obviously, we continue to have a very significant investment in the development and design of planning analytics, along with our go-to-market investment. So recently, the product was renamed to Planning Analytics with Watson, simply because of the fact that we're leveraging the investments being made in other areas of the data and AI portfolio. And I'll cover, I'm going to do a little bit of a roadmap piece in a bit with, how the Cognitive Analytics piece fits in. But planning analytics is actually one of the lead with offerings in data and AI segment for IBM. So that the benefit there is, we've got the focus and attention from Daniel Hernandez, our general manager, to Rob Thomas, the senior VP, and even from our CEO Arvind Krishna. So the timing is very good. In a week or two, we're actually going to see some improved content on IBM.com that shows reflects some of the new messaging and changes around what you were saying earlier, Anthony, about XP&A and the continuous integrated planning. So some of that investment you'll see in the next week or two. So I think that's sort of testament to where we're going with the product. It's definitely one of the main tools in the data and AI platform.
Yeah, that's great and encouraging, right? And we as a partner, we of course could work with any vendor and knowing and seeing the continued commitment. And look, at the end of the day, talk's cheap. It's what's really happening, and the product we're seeing is evolving very quickly. We see new stuff added, and excited to see the details you're going to share about the roadmap, David. And for those of you watching, I'm also going to do a quick demonstration of some of those new capabilities. Whether you're a customer or someone considering it, we'll show you something you can take home and think about. So Anthony, we have you here with David. Is there anything on your wish list for new capabilities, your Christmas list you want David to jot down?
Always. Thank you for that opportunity. But I think, first of all, John, you were right. It was adaptive. Why do they all have to start with an A? Is that just like?
But, they want to be at the top of the list.
Yeah, it's just they all start with an A. We went with the one that did not start with an A. I think the Excel add-in is honest. It's super fast. It's better than anything else that's out there, and I think that works beautifully. I really like PAW too. And just for everyone on the call, that's the web app. That's kind of the acronym for it. And I think so we have fully implemented that for our G&A planning. It went really well. We used it for our 2021 planning cycle. I would say there are some functionality things there that I would be great, especially on the bursting and the scheduling from temp to fix the printing on that. I think would be really nice, especially if they're CFO or you're the executive level or even the cost center owners. I think there are that could be a little bit more that could be a little easier. I think the other thing, and this is kind of primarily getting feedback from my team that's kind of in it, using it every day, and they've battle tested every corner of the machine. But getting feedback from them, they would also like to kind of see some of the security settings be a little bit more automated within PAW. I think you can go in and you can kind of set up a user in PAW, but in terms of customizing the access into specific departments, and customizing the security, you kind of have to do that through a sort of a manual upload process. So bringing more of that into a drag and drop function within PAW, so it's all in one place, I think would be great too. So would love to, and I think it's happening that the Excel add-in is beautiful, almost kind of don't touch it and just continue to kind of build out the functionality within PAW. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Anthony.
So John, maybe I should just go right ahead and respond to those. So
sure.
Thanks very much, because it makes it simple to answer your question. So both burst and print are in our roadmap for 2022. So those will be updated at some point early 2022. User security is also part of the roadmap. So one of the things that we want to do is integrate the TM1 server and workspace security, which are needed for the next generation server, which again will come in 2022. So making sure that users can leverage whichever security they have is obviously important. So yeah, we're listening. Those are both definitely in our existing roadmap. We have both a short-term and a long-term roadmap, and that's sort of our, sort of midterm. So basically, our general approach is moving to core interfaces, which are PAW, Planning Analytics Workspace, and Planning Analytics for Excel, which with the, with the server as the core back end there. So, interesting to hear that Excel is something that you say just leave it as it is. Obviously, we also feel it's one of our main benefits, because frankly, most finance users are Excel users. So why not give them an environment?
We're not all, we're still in the game.
Yeah, and I think it's important to give an environment that makes those users comfortable. So adding additional functionality within Excel to make your, the budgeting, forecasting, etc., a lot easier, I think is important. So we'll continue to make that a priority.
That's great. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the feedback, Anthony. So let's zinger number 3, Dave. And I hear this one again. Planning analytics requires you to build everything from scratch, and it takes a long time to implement. And then this is, they're all the, the web, the SaaS only vendors that, tell you we have a blueprint, you just sign up and you're off and running in, a couple weeks. What's your response to that?
So I think implementation time depends on each application, and that goes for any product that's out there. For those that want to get a jump start, we have a series of accelerators available on our community stages, that touch on various lines of business. But starting from scratch is maybe one way to get there for extremely complex models. You can't build a template for a huge company. And one of the things that we like to do is, business partners, as are key to the success of our business. The majority of our sales are done by business partners. So in these cases, we leverage business partners like yourselves who have existing solutions, right? So the business partners build solutions. They have subject matter expertise within lines of business or within industry. So I spent the better part of today in conversation. We're working on a set of accelerators that we will make available, in the coming months, that customers and business partners alike will be able to consume from our community page. That'll give them, free access to starters. So in the product, yes, are there, many of the vendors, as and Anthony, you probably saw this in the sales cycle. Other vendors are going to come in and say, we have a template that can get you going and you'll be up and running in no time. Well, that's very easy to say, and that's a check mark in an RFP or in a POC, but the world doesn't function like that. Regardless of whether or not you have a template, there's still a ton of customization that needs to happen. Every business changes on the fly, and having the ability to do that, as time goes on, is important. So yes, we do have, accelerators that can get you started, but the majority of customers, regardless of who their vendor is, will have to, do some customization along the way.
Yeah. That's great. Anthony, you guys were up and running ahead of schedule. What do you recall? Was it 3 calendar months?
Yeah, I think it was almost exactly 3, and I think maybe even that last couple of weeks was probably more on our end. Getting that anxiety, that making sure it was basically all perfect. But it was almost like those last 2 weeks that are the most important thing. I as the head of finance, it was very important to me that once you guys were gone, not that you were going to be gone, but that once we were implemented that, and I think, like I said, I had PTSD with host analytics not being fully stood up, and we were kind of stuck with this half-baked EPM, if you will. And I wasn't going to let that happen to the team again. And so taking those last 2 to 3 weeks to really make sure that we knew how to do everything. We knew how to do the KPI counts ourselves. We knew how to upload data ourselves. We knew how to implement the G&A planning process through PAW ourselves, and we knew we could do it all. And so, but yeah, I think the last couple of weeks was our end.
Yeah, that's great, Anthony, and very thankful for your hands-on approach and taking ownership. That's an important part of it. Technology is one part, and there's the people and process. And if you come into, regardless of the technology you pick, if you come into it with the mindset that someone's going to hand it over and you're just going to operate it without any investment up front, you're probably going to have some challenges down the road. And what I've seen from the customers that have sadly maybe made the wrong choice based on the drive by of the car, and then they bought the vehicle, is they got 80% of the way, but if the destination's 100, then they fell short. And you get so far along, it's sad because I've had some people go through their evaluation and say, well, we're going to try it out. It was cheaper and they promised this, and if it doesn't work out, we'll come back to you. Well, that doesn't happen, sadly. You're invested politically, personally, financially, and you can't just unwind that. You don't get your money and time back, and it's kind of political suicide to say, oh, I picked the wrong one. Can I get another, chunk of money? So, it's really important to do a thorough analysis.
Yeah, we complained about host every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And there's some other stories I probably can't share because they're personal, related to my past. But so
we gotta turn that mocktail into a cocktail and get the stories out of you.
Yeah. That's the second happy hour. So my last question for you, and then we can kind of like pivot to more some for future focused things. And and I've heard this, and Dave, planning analytics, if you want your reporting, you're required to buy other modules, or you have to buy Cognos to do reporting out of that. What are your thoughts or comments on that?
So again, something we hear quite regularly, but is 100% false. And the reason I say that is because all planning analytics users receive entitlements to Cognos Analytics. Cognos Analytics, for those who aren't aware, is our enterprise business intelligence tool. When those users, so when any customer purchases planning analytics, the entitlement to Cognos Analytics gives them the ability to report off their planning data in an enterprise tool. So in many of the recent releases, we've incorporated additional visualizations from Cognos Analytics into planning analytics, so giving those users access to more charting, to more robust dashboard capabilities, including the smarts and AI that come with Cognos Analytics. So most of the users already have the planning and analysis that they need in planning analytics. So, as I mentioned, the two are very closely integrated. Planning analytics content can be brought fully integrated into Cognos Analytics. But these tools share similar features. There's quite a bit of integration between the two. And as you'll see down the road, there's some exciting new features coming within planning analytics to augment those reporting capabilities. So no, you don't need to purchase an additional license to do reporting. It's available to every user of planning analytics.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen, I'd say 5 years ago, there was, you could obviously do anything in Excel from a reporting standpoint, but on the web, is a bit more limited. And now we're seeing almost this convergence of the Cognos reporting embedded in planning analytics, which is exciting for us. So Anthony, I know Sweetgreen, you have, I think Snowflake, and you're using some other reporting tools, but I think you're using a hybrid of things depending on the function. Can you talk about what you're doing for reporting?
Yeah, we have connected TM1 directly just to our data table. So we actually have a data lake. It all flows in. We got data coming from Brink, our POS system. And so what we have connected, we actually do use Snowflake as our to create our data tables, and we are linking directly to Snowflake through all of our sales, KPI data, sales by day part, basically however you can slice and dice the data. we are connecting directly to it. That was probably another reason why we added on to the time a little bit. But I didn't want just the P&L the P&L EPM and that's it. All I can do is link back to a GL. I was like, no, we're gonna blow this thing out, and we're gonna fully load up all KPIs. We're gonna automate those. We're gonna be able to use this for all ad hoc analysis, not just doing the month end reporting. That wasn't gonna cut it with me.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I do recall some of the things we built with you, and is powerful. It's getting into the important details of your food costing and other elements and building that up. So if you can't accurately understand and plan your costs and your revenue, that's kind of the basics, the fundamentals, and so that's great. Well, I think we're running pretty much on schedule. Let's pivot maybe to discussing the future, since that's the theme, budget to the future, and fire up to. Does anyone recall the gigawatts we're supposed to get up to get to the future? Anyone? 1.21 gigawatts. I only know because it's on. Yes, good. 1.21, and maybe Pamela, we can get you back in and fire up our future cocktail. And then I'd love to hear, Anthony, what your future looks like with planning analytics, maybe what you have planned. So like for you with planning analytics, do you have any plans ahead?
Yeah, we did a lot in the initial implementation, and so that was key. I think what we might be looking at here in the future, and probably not too distant, future, is really on the sales end, on the sales forecasting and planning end, starting to introduce machine learning and AI. I don't want to learn COVID. I hope that doesn't happen again. I think that we've been actually very accurate with our forecast and our trajectories kind of climbing out of COVID, and when we thought we would hit certain milestones and different markets to open back up. But I would say there's still a lot of art relative to the science into our forecasting. And I think we're getting better internally on that every month, to be honest. But I think that incorporating more of the science, and I think that comes from machine learning, and where the future technology is going. Interested to kind of hear what IBM is working on that. I think that's definitely going to be something that we incorporate here as part of. I don't know if it ever fully takes over our forecast planning process, but I think I see it as something that's additive or corroborative that we use as part of the validation process and for planning, especially at the store level too. We have so many different trade areas and so many different drivers taking place throughout our restaurant base that as we grow and scale and get into new markets, it's going to need to become more scientific than it likely is today.
That's great. And as I recall, the one thing I love is, IBM's vision is really this concept of connected planning, and that is, the speed at which information flows from different parts of the business. Supply and demand, is that in sync with marketing and hiring plans and all that? And you guys embrace that right out of the gate, and we had a really good connected holistic model. So excited to see what you do in the future, and happy to be a part of it and associated with your great success there, Anthony. So Dave, you ready? Let's hop in the DeLorean and accelerate to 88 miles per hour. That's what I found on Google. That's the speed. And maybe you can share a little bit about what IBM's doing to remain, the leader in the performance management space.
Yeah. Since I'm in Canada, we'd have to convert that to kilometers per hour. So I'm not quite sure we're pushing probably 120 there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I can give you a quick idea of our roadmap, but many of the capabilities that that we're putting into planning analytics focus on the integration across the businesses. So solving things like headcount, sales, operations, marketing, planning, those types of things. So they all lend themselves to various areas of the business. We see that XP&A, or the integrated planning, is where we're working with industry experts to continue to remain as one of these industry leaders. So I can walk you through a very brief roadmap just to give you some of the themes, John, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I understand you're probably limited in the details you can share, but I think for those on, it'd be good to hear at least the high level.
Yeah, so I think, what I can show obviously is pretty high level. If there's anybody that needs to go in additional detail, we are definitely happy to do that. But so when we talk about development, we're looking at 5 different themes. So, to Anthony's comment, embracing Excel is theme number one. So most of our planning analytics clients know that, we take tremendous pride in our support of an Excel interface. So many users are comfortable with the experience of Excel. So we continue to focus on improving that portion. So the main thing here is this instills confidence and trust in our users. So they become more productive, they become quicker. So expanding the capabilities within Excel to, a set editor, earlier in 2020 was, one of those key things we did for Excel. When we talk about speed and scale, planning analytics delivers in a couple of different ways. So we have on-premise, we deliver in the cloud. We also deliver on Cloud Pak for Data as a cartridge. So this is an investment in a modern containerized environment that is built for the future. So this allows users to save time by reducing the amount of time for installation, for maintenance, for upgrades. So when customers are growing their business, it makes it a little bit easier. They can instantly add additional resources, and enable new services quickly using that integrated data and AI platform. So those clients that are moving to Cloud Pak for Data can deploy planning analytics very easily. It's literally a click of a button and it's 20 minutes with Cloud Pak for Data cartridge. So that's one of the number 2 theme. When we talk about predictive and smarts, in an earlier release of Planning Analytics Workspace, we included forecasting capabilities based on time series. So this applies to sort of best fit and solutions, and it allows your users to detect things like seasonality and data that apply to those forecasting periods. So forecasting is now available at different levels. So whether it's leaf levels or category levels, depends on how the users want to leverage it. So we've received pretty good feedback here, and it's an area that we're focused on expanding in coming releases. So you mentioned the idea of machine learning. This is the ability to understand a user's history. So, if you're in Workspace and you're creating a dashboard, understanding that a particular user always uses one or two charts, when you create when you build a new dashboard, it's going to suggest those specific charts. So it understands the history of each individual user. When we talk about ease of planning, so these are some of the latest innovations that were released in the new the recent versions in the fall, were our new welcome and landing page in Workspace, based on the idea of having a more welcoming experience. So this makes a lot of the content contextual for the user. So we're looking at guided planning experience where the planning manager creates the process, and then contributors can perform their steps as required. So planning management can understand where your team is with a plan, and it makes it a lot easier to have a more collaborative environment to work with, and everybody understands the process, and it's a little bit clearer than we would see with some of the others. So making the planning process a little bit easier, more collaborative, and a little bit more predictable. And then finally, having planning and analysis in one application. So as Workspace becomes the place for planning and analysis for your users, many of them only use the product sporadically. So the goal here is to guide those users in the right way, into the right places, more quickly. So, and this again speaks to the ease of self-service. So making each user, depending on their level of expertise, giving them the capabilities for each of those levels. So Workspace has recently adopted a new visualization engine, and this enables entirely new series of visualizations for Workspace users. So that's kind of a general overview of some of the themes that we develop on. So anything in our short to midterm roadmap is built around these 5 themes. So this is what you'll see sort of going forward. But Excel is obviously key. Moving to either to a subscription format in the cloud, which is on IBM Cloud or Cloud Pak for Data, adding in predictive and smarts, machine learning, natural language processing, the AI, all of that together, simplifying the planning process and making it more collaborative, and then again, having planning analysis in one application, and that includes making planning analytics and Cognos analytics a little bit closer, because they leverage similar development teams, so we can anything developed for Cognos analytics can more rapidly be put into planning analytics.
That's great, David. Thank you for those details. Good news, Anthony. I think everything you asked for was on the is a theme. So that's great news. Well, good. Well, we are on track. I am going to run through a real quick demonstration, actually show a bunch of the themes you talked about, Dave. And then we'll have a short Q&A and we'll wrap it up. So let me share my screen. And can you all see a web browser?
Yep.
Yes. So speaking of the new PAW interface and the welcome screen, I actually just hit it, but the default is there's a welcome screen with a little video up top. And some of the workflow is fantastic. Absolutely love what IBM is doing here. This is something customers are embracing very quickly. I'm going to walk through this IBM Auto, fictitious company to highlight some of these features. The workflow is really exciting. So to Dave's point of we want to get the right information to the right people at the right time, right at the end of the day. So the workflow allows you to assign steps. You really assign steps, allocate, and point them to the appropriate assets where they're either looking at reports or doing analysis or capturing input. Assign those users, give them a time period. You can control whether or not submission is required and then have visibility into that submission. So again, the holistic visibility and coordination of many users across an organization is what helps drive this efficiency. So this is kind of the build or the power user view, and just adding another step is as simple. You just walk through the process, right? You give it a name, you assign the asset, you assign the users. From an end user standpoint, if I come in here and I open this, I'm logged in as the administrator, so I see things a little bit differently. But if I open this contribution, it now takes me into each of these steps. So I'm going to start out, I'm going to wear multiple hats. I'm going to keep the same red vest on, but I'll wear multiple hats. And I'm going to go into this car analysis phase and screen. And so what we see here is, again, some of the enhanced, robust, continuing investments made into the visualization capabilities. And if I come in here, I can see I'm actually going to change I made my resolution bigger. So I'm going to do a quick change here because it's a little too big now. Take a sip of your future drink and we'll be right back. All right. Okay. And do you see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here I can see I'm looking at my sales for the year, and I see I can do the things, dynamically in the web, which is really powerful. I can add calculations on the fly. So if I want to maybe see a variance, percentage variance of actual versus budget as an example, I can throw that in. I see this variance. I can, zoom in, zoom out, and I see here that if I look at the end of the year, I look that I'm going to be kind of over in terms of my total budget. So I could come in and just make a tweak to my budget, and using the shortcuts that have been there for a long time that are very valuable, I could decrease this 15%, hit enter, and that now makes an adjustment to my budget. And we can also use the sandboxing, which is very powerful. So if I switch over to operations, I can have multiple sandboxes or scenarios that I work with that allow me to look at and play with different scenarios and then submit those. So if I come back here, I'm now looking at my adjusted forecast, getting my budget in line, and I can see if I look down at the visualization that I have kind of some low numbers in a few categories in my sports and in my SUV areas. And so what I might want to do is then say, hey, we want to do a promotion. I'm trying to drive sales in a particular category. So I pass it over to our marketing group to make some investments. So I can come in here and hit submit and maybe put in a note here. Want to run promotion on hybrid sports vehicles or something, right? So this is that speed of collaboration and coordination. And now if I come in here and play the marketing person, I can close this fly out, and I want to look at my revenue. So I'm looking at my revenue by car product, and one of the many things that are unique to the planning analytics platform is that we can use attributes as dimensions. Really, no other product can do that, and it's very powerful. So an example here is that we're looking at our products and we have attributes that include engine type, engine size, color, and we can use those to do analysis or data entry. So if I want to come down and focus on my hybrid vehicles, I'm now drilling into that, and maybe I want to focus on my sports customer types, and I can and I want to start to run a promotion. So I'm going to switch over from looking at sales to looking at promos, and I want to run a promo, a 100K promo for the last 3 months of the year. So I can plug those in, and you'll also note I'll just zero suppress my rows here. So I'm just looking at the correct products. So if I drill down, you'll see it actually spread those numbers proportionally. So this isn't new. This is just a powerful feature that's been part of the product from the beginning, and that's why there's over 2 million customers using it, is this type of functionality. So I was able to enter top line numbers, have those pushed down to the detail. And so now I've kind of put my promotion plan in place. And now I want to come back and submit that. And I want to have some additional work done by the next person in the group. And I want to do some forecasting by product. So ran promotion for Q4, submit that. And now I jump down to playing the revenue planner role. And Anthony, I think you'll love this. And this is another example of the great investments that IBM's making in the technology, and that is to leverage the robust portfolio platform in in AI and machine learning. So looking here at my products, I want to forecast out, not just using historical data. I want to use more sophisticated algorithms. I want to use AI. So now it's as simple as, and I can do this at a granular level or at an individual level, but we have this new forecast button, which leverages Watson AI. And so I can choose the period I want it to forecast out. So I want it to start forecasting in September. So I'll just come down here to September. And then again, I don't need to be a data scientist. This is meant to put it in the power of the business. And I want it to forecast out this group of time. I can come in and choose it or have it select seasonality automatically. I can have it remove certain periods of time if I have anomalies that would throw off the statistical algorithms. And I can preview this and just get a snapshot of what it looks like. Now, what it's doing is now running through all the different algorithms and picking the most accurate algorithm to use. And it shows me my forecast as well as the range, a high and low range of confidence. And it shows me the statistical algorithms and the accuracy levels. And so I like this. This looks good. I want to commit that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the forecast button. And this will now leverage that AI to forecast out for me all of those components. So that's, again, very powerful, showing the continued investment in the product. And I, of course, can go in, and this is when we look at the power of AI and machine learning in general, it's what can technology do for us, but it's also the fact that the most accurate results come as a result of the AI and machine learning coupled with a human and what only a human can know. So I might know things related to growth in Europe or other things. I can then go in and add and adjust these numbers and submit those. So we've now updated that. So I'm going to submit that, and then we're going to take it back to kind of some final analysis. AI forecast complete. Going to the beach, right? I have extra time now. And so now if we jump over to the last step here, oops, sorry, I didn't want to hit that. I just want to hit the model. So now I'm playing a fourth persona, and I'm looking at sales. So now I'm going to show you some of the new advanced visualization as well as a couple other things if you're new or just curious. So if I hit this edit button up here, let's say I want to add a visualization. So I'm seeing my budget and forecast numbers. Now I'll just make a copy of the data here. Oops, sorry. I'll make a copy. So now I have my copy here, and I'll just resize this a little bit. And I want to turn this into a chart. So some of the new visualization charts, one of which is a waterfall, very popular. So I'll just turn that into a waterfall chart. So now I have my waterfall chart combined with my graph. And another, just showing the ease of use and the power here is if I want to drop in a button, I can do that just by dropping in a button and assigning the properties. Or I actually created one this morning just for time efficiency. I created this finance button. So this finance button will just be a button that'll take users to another report if I wanted to have that in this example. So now I've taken this chart of data that's been updated by many people, factoring in the different departments. I've created a chart off of that data to make it easier to assimilate visually. And I've added this button here that takes me to this financial dashboard that shows the power of the this is actually one of the blueprints. So when we talk about time to value, this is a free accelerator that allows you to get things up and running quickly, which gives me an income statement, balance sheet, 2 methods of cash flow that's interactive and lets me do driver-based things like adjust my day sales outstanding, etc. So that is, in a nutshell, a quick overview of some of the new features in planning analytics. And then in Excel, just an example of the continued innovation there. Planning analytics for Excel, lightweight, optimized for a WAN, allows you to have thousands of users in remote locations, all working interactively with the data. So you can have people inputting, doing reporting, all the data is stored in a centralized repository via planning analytics for Excel. And that is what I had for a quick overview of some of the new features. Anthony, were you excited? Were you pumped up? Or you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
I was thinking to myself, I can't tell you how many hours we've spent putting those waterfall charts together in Excel. Wish I could get all those FP&A hours back.
Oh, sorry.
Throughout my journey. But no, that's really exciting. I think that we want to continue to tap more and more into Pong. And I'm excited for that. I think definitely the machine learning. I mean, just when you make it as easy as you just showed it, I think it really allows a much higher adoption. That budgeting processes, they're brutal, and you're hours and hours, and your brain's not going to like, what else can I do to add to this process?
Right.
And so when you make something like that really easy as a check, and you can apply AI with the click of a couple of buttons, I think you're going to get a high adoption rate, and you're going to get more accurate budgets for sure. That was exciting stuff. What, John? What I forget. Did you say 2022? What was the timetable on that?
Everything I showed you is available today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're on we didn't really cover this, we should have, but you're on the SaaS version, so it just might be a function of, us getting the right buttons clicked to make sure that you're upgraded to the very latest version. So we could definitely talk about that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so the future is now, that's an annoying phrase, the future is now. But so we have 14 minutes left, and happy to open it up to any Q&A for myself or Dr. Dave Albert or Mr. Wiginton. Okay, I'm looking through, or I think Jackie, or if anyone was fielding questions, I'm happy. Otherwise, I can skim through these here. Let's see.
So John, there was a question about, TM1 and planning analytics. So, essentially, Jacqueline, thank you for answering, but essentially TM1 was the original name for planning analytics. So it's evolved over time and is now called planning analytics with Watson. But TM1 is the engine of the back end of the server that planning analytics is built on.
Yep. Yeah, great. And it does get confusing. So yeah, TM1's at the engine in the car, so to speak, and planning analytics is the upgraded chassis. You good with that, Dave?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Another question. This one's for you, Anthony, and the question is around Snowflake. Is Snowflake physically loaded into planning analytics, or is planning analytics able to retrieve the Snowflake data and dynamically use it?
Yeah, it's the latter. So what Turner helped us do on your team, is we're just linking directly to our Snowflake data tables and pulling it in exactly the same way. What my team was doing before is we were just writing queries manually on an ad hoc basis for all this stuff out of Snowflake. And that's why, I mean, I think we had a pretty dynamic implementation, as you recall, John, where I said I wanted to do everything. And I wanted to automate everything, not just P&L data coming from the GL system. I wanted to link up to Snowflake. And once we actually get a full HRIS up and running, I'll be giving you a call for that as well, John. But yeah, we were linking directly to our Snowflake data tables, many of them. It's a lot of data, and I think we were a little nervous that we'd start to slow down in the beginning, but we haven't. It's still really, really fast, and I think we've gained a lot of speed on our end, not having to write Snowflake queries all day anymore.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a great point. We didn't really talk about that, but it's a huge differentiator, and that is data volumes. What planning analytics can handle is unparalleled. There's nothing like it. It takes 1 billion nanoplane cubes to do what TM1 can do in one cube. And
I don't even think you could do what we have done in nanoplane. I just think the speed would be so slow.
Yeah. And that's my point, right? That if you're looking at these types of technologies, you can't gloss over the fact that it looks nice and it's pretty in a demo, because they're really all very similar kind of nowadays. Because it's becoming easier and easier for vendors to develop the UI, because there's tool sets and things that accelerate that. So it's really the underpinnings, it's the engine, and where are the limitations, and they're not usually UI driven. That's not usually where the limitations are anymore. So well, I think we are perhaps ahead of schedule, and I see no further questions at this point. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Anthony, thank you so much for all your feedback. being a great customer. You're a shining light in terms of being inspiration for someone who's trying to do something and make an impact on the business. Wish Sweetgreen and you the best of luck and growth in 2021. And you know, if you want to kick a few shares of stock of Sweetgreen, if you ever go public my way, hey, and Dave too for his time.
You got it. You got it. No, my pleasure. You know, EVM implementations there. FP&A is a very busy world, and rarely do we lift up our heads and say, yeah, I have plenty of time to do an EPM implementation right now. And so, you know, we did in the middle of COVID 100% remotely, John, as you recall, and I was a little nervous about that. We did not meet in person once over 3 months, and it was seamless, on budget, under our deadline. And so it was a great experience. And John, you guys are great partners. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony, for the kind words. Thank you very much. Dave Albert, thank you for your time, sir, and keep doing what you're doing because we love the results and appreciate all your support. And you look, there's a lot of customers out there that have a lot of things on the horizon, so we're counting on you. No pressure.
No pressure felt, John. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Anthony. Great to hear your story. You know, we would be fortunate to have as many customers like you. So we really appreciate it. John, I mean, we've got a long history, and I know the good work that you guys do. So we appreciate, what you guys are doing as well.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for joining. If you've had 2 cocktails, please do not drive. Stay a little while and have a great rest of the week. And this recording will be sent out to all of you. So all the best. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.